Over the weekend, I was on Brickset, which is essentially the biggest LEGO blog, and they posted an article titled, "Has LEGO Become More Expensive?" And I, of course, expected an article perhaps talking about some of the recent price changes in which LEGO prices went up. They never go down, of course. And, you know, obviously maybe some graphs or something to show how prices have changed over time. Some real empirical data behind this apparent study. And Brickset has done some really good articles in the past on topics and actually done some really good research for things and really, you know, shown some like really cool trends or whatever it may be about different LEGO themes or subjects within LEGO. However, with this particular article, what I found was perhaps the biggest LEGO propaganda piece I have ever seen. I think Brickset just wanted to make sure they were going to get the upcoming 2023 sets free and early from LEGO by posting this, because I can't think of any other reason to post something just so blatantly wrong. The article starts out with a pretty common sentiment that says from some of their friends they hear that LEGO is great, however it's too bad that it's so expensive now. And this is true. I hear this from a lot of people too, talking about how LEGO is generally very good, yet the price of it definitely leaves a sour taste for a lot of people, and that's just reality, I think. I think a lot of people look at it and they're like, they wish it was cheaper, but I think that's true of everything, and so I can't really fault LEGO for that. Clearly a lot of people pay the price LEGO asks because they keep asking for it. Like, that's what a LEGO employee once told me, essentially, was, why is LEGO so expensive? Because you keep buying it. After that, in my opinion, this article really falls apart. Their very next little paragraph here says they're trying to establish whether or not the price of LEGO has really gone up. My brother in Christ. A little over 2 weeks ago, this set would have only cost you $40 on Lego.com. Now it will cost you $45 on Lego.com. Case closed. But they're not done. Okay, I actually skipped over this part when I first read this, but apparently this guy is an educator, so I assume teacher, but like, if you're teaching people, shouldn't you know the obvious, that if the price on something goes up, it has really gone up in reality? Like, this is a real fact. It's not an opinion. It's not a question. There's no debate to be had. The price of this went up. What more is there to discuss? Has the price really gone up? Yes. So kind of irrelevant to the fact of whether or not LEGO has gone up in price, though. This guy grew up in a low to middle income family and was able to get a lot of LEGO sets because his parents were generous gifters, which is great. He has a lot of sets that cost between $5 and $25. His largest sets were the Renegade Runner. Let's see what that, oh, that's actually a pretty cool one, pirate ship. Do I have this one in the garage? Did a fan gift me this? I think a fan gifted me this one, no way. That's a cool connection. And I guess that's a nice bit of background info about the writer. So it appears that quite early on into this guy's reintroduction into buying LEGO, he fell right into the price per piece trap, that the number of pieces you're getting is the ultimate decider of value in a LEGO set, because he wanted the best bang for his buck. And it is a really easy way to look at something and be like, yeah, it has more pieces for your money, and therefore it's a better value, and that's why I should buy that. But I think that's just a bad way to buy things. He says there's three main factors that contribute to the price per piece of a LEGO set. You have licenses, and this is an obvious one. Licenses probably at the top end cost LEGO 20% of the price of a set just to license out. Like, the Star Wars license is probably a 20% fee or something. It's probably quite a substantial amount of money, and for that reason, Star Wars sets tend to feel like they are a little bit higher on the spectrum of price per piece, or just price in terms of the value you feel like you're getting, compared to other LEGO sets out there in the ether of like LEGO Creator, LEGO Ninjago, or whatever it may be. You just tend to get more bang for your buck with other non-licensed themes because there's just less buck that needs to be separated. The first of three things he says play into price per piece are licenses, and it's not about price per piece, it's just what goes into price in general, and licenses certainly heavily affect that. I mean, there's no question. However, LEGO also is on record saying that they spread these license costs out. They don't solely put the license costs on the license theme so that their portfolio has a more balanced pricing. Let's just say Star Wars is that 20% licensing fee. Maybe LEGO will only weight 12% of that into the price of the LEGO Star Wars sets and then spread the other 8% out among other sets in some way. Like, however the math works on their end, it works, but they say they spread it out. Ultimately, I do believe that licensed themes tend to cost a little bit more for what you get compared to what you get with a non-licensed theme. However, when buying a licensed theme, part of what you're paying for is that license. I'm getting a Star Wars set so I'm willing to pay a little bit more. I am. Like, I would rather have a Star Wars set than a Space Police set or whatever. Like, I like Space Police, but you get the point. You're paying that little bit extra for the name, and that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's to be expected. Another one he brings up is the brick type, and he says, large molded Lego bricks and elements will always raise the price per piece ratio. You know, that makes sense. It also just raises the price of the set as a whole. Like, price per piece is so baked into this. It's like he wanted to make an article talking about price per piece only, but not actually discussing the price of sets and like the actual value you're getting, not the number of pieces you're getting. Like, the last one here is a little funny to me because it's just the brick count. Literally part of the price per piece is the number of pieces. So like, yeah, if a set has 100 pieces and costs $10, it's 10 cents a piece. And if it has 50 pieces and costs $10, it's 20 cents a piece. Yeah, that's a factor, I guess. His point here seems to be that as sets have more pieces, you tend to get a better price per piece, and that the less pieces it has, the worse price per piece you tend to get. If you're buying for part count, go wild with that information. But like, that's irrelevant to whether or not Lego sets are actually getting more expensive. So continuing to lay the foundation for the eventual conclusion of the article, he talks about how 10 cents per piece is a deal. You know, if it's under 10 cents per piece, you're getting good value for your money. There's no question about it. And then if it's over 10 cents per piece, he says it's not ideal, but I mean, essentially it just means that's a bad price. You shouldn't be paying for that. And like, I've been in many videos saying I wholly disagree, and this article really sucks up to Lego, and I'll do a little sucking up to Lego here too. Valuing Lego sets solely based on their price per piece and looking at them this way, I think is not great. I don't think it's gonna work for you in the long run. Like, let's say Lego releases this exact same set in 20 years, right? Like, same exact piece count, 20 years down the line, inflation, let's say, is double, and now it's $80 instead of the $40 it was, and now it's like 30 cents per piece or something. Is it now just a bad deal because, you know, it's not 10 cents per piece anymore? Like, the 10 cents per piece thing is not going to last. We just happen to be in this Goldilocks zone. For a visual representation, over time, the price of Lego has gone up rather steadily, and in that same time, luckily for the 10 cent per piece stands, the size of pieces has been reducing, and so after some amount of time, you can't make pieces any smaller, and as such, you'll see the curve or the line begin to flatten out, and that's probably about where we are now in this chart. And so from now on, price per piece is just going to get a lot worse. And that's why it's a bad indicator of value. It's certainly not something Lego claims to try to hit, although I wouldn't be surprised if some of the designers are a little bit motivated to try to hit that due to constraints from consumers being like, oh, but it's not 10 cents per piece. Basically what I take away when people talk about price per piece like this, in this very like, it's either 10 cents per piece or it's nothing way, I just have to assume that they value 10 studs the same as they value a singular 2x5 piece. It's a rather extreme example, but I think it best illustrates that not all pieces are created equal, and like, that's just how it is, and there's so much minutia to it that we can't possibly calculate that on an individual set level every time we want to find out whether or not something that has more than 10 cents per piece is worth that price, because if it's over 10 cents per piece, there better be something that gives it that better value. Otherwise, it's below 10 cents per piece, and no matter what, it's a good value. Like, that's dumb to me. Oh, I found it buried in the article. He mentions that Lego did increase their prices, which answers his original question, has Lego really gone up in price? Like, it's right there. It's in the article. In the next section, he talks about the year 1994, literally before I was born. So this was like 28 years ago. He talks about set 6561, a 4-number set number. Haven't seen that since 2012. A set called the Hot Rod Club with 227 pieces for $26.50. He says it's 11 cents per piece. He goes on to talk about a couple other sets at 9 cents per piece and 10 cents per piece. And at the end of all that, quote, amazingly, price per piece hovers around 10 cents. However, this guy completely negates the idea that there's been any amount of inflation in the last 30 years. And so if we go to usinflationcalculator.com, with inflation, this set modern day would cost about $53. So your real inflation-adjusted price per piece is about 23 cents per piece. He brings up a couple other sets, including an Islander catamaran that has 58 pieces for $13.25, touting it's 22 cents per piece. If you adjust that for inflation, you're looking at like 44 cents per piece, so I don't know what he's on about. If price per piece has remained consistent over the past years, then what will the LEGO Group's new 2022 prices do to my value for my money standards going forward? Your value for your money standards are bad. I'm sorry to break it to you, but LEGO's using smaller pieces than ever, and that has just happened to generally keep up with their increasing of prices. He continues to use this flawed price per piece model to compare sets like the modern Galaxy Explorer to the original Galaxy Explorer, saying by the price per piece metric, it's a better value for your money because it's a 1 cent lower price per piece than the original set was in 1979. We'll completely ignore the fact that the 1979 version of this set had giant base plates that are obviously worth more than a single small 2x4 brick piece, but still only count as one piece for the piece count of the set. And we'll just take a look at the inflation part per piece number. $32 in 1979 is $130 today. That's actually insane, didn't know that. That gives this set a price per piece of 38 cents per piece adjusted for inflation. That is insane. This set is if this set was $130, like, bro, that is a overpriced ripoff in my opinion for $130. He finishes this section by saying the trends in the Lego market haven't really changed in the past 30 years, at least not according to the research I have done. Look, I haven't been alive for 30 years, so to be fair, maybe you're all the wiser and I know nothing, but I would argue that trends in the Lego market very much have changed in the past 30 years. Even in the last 3 years, they have changed massively. And I'm not exactly sure what he is specifically saying as far as the trends. It's just a very general statement. Maybe he's solely talking about how 10 cents per piece is still standard across the board for him, and that's the trend that he's talking about. But the Lego market just is so different than it was 30 years ago and even 5 years ago. So I don't, that's just wrong, I guess. And in the conclusion is where the Lego shilling and Brickset guaranteeing that they'll get those 2023 sets for free and early is really hammered home. And in this conclusion, he's like on the precipice of like figuring it out. He's so close because he says, first, Lego sets on average are including more pieces than in past years, while simultaneously sets are perhaps growing smaller or are apparently smaller when constructed, thus they do not look as large as their piece count historically suggests. The second one I certainly agree with, just as a holistic thing. Everything around us is getting more expensive and people's incomes in general are not keeping up. I think looking at housing is a really good example of this. I saw something the other day that like the average American, after expenses has like $30,000 or something a year, and that was like 20 years ago, and nowadays they have like the same amount of money, except housing prices back then were 100,000 and now they're 400,000 on average. Just something crazy like that that really did show how little incomes are keeping up with the cost of something like housing. And then in the most contradictory chain of sentences I think I've ever read, he says, "Is Lego becoming more expensive?" and answers it with a simple yes. And then a few lines down says, the next time someone says, "I like Lego, but they're too expensive," remember that in spite of 30 years of inflation and constant rising petroleum prices, the cost of Lego has not really changed. It has always been a good value for the money, and quality products will always command a premium price. I agree that quality products will command a premium price, and I do believe that Lego is one of those things, hence why I'm so harsh in a lot of my reviews, because I think at times they don't quite stand up to that, and so I want to see them stand up to that quality premium price product that they are. I do somewhat agree that it has always been a good value for the money. I do think for the most part Lego is a really good toy for the overall experience that you get and the time that you can use it and the reusability and different things you can do with it for the amount of money that you can spend on a set. The possibilities are seemingly endless, and I think generally you're getting a decent value for your money a lot of the time. If you've watched a lot of my set reviews, you probably know that I generally think that things are worth what they set them at pricing wise. But of course, saying that the cost of Lego hasn't really changed is just insane to me. I don't understand how anyone could possibly think that. We can look at a few examples, not even looking back 30 years. Like, this is an article about 30 years, right? We can look back 10 years. We can look over like 2-year gaps as examples as well. So let's start with one of those smaller examples. The Lego Star Wars UCS Death Star that was released in 2008, released for $400. They retired it like 5 years later and then released it a couple years later in 2016 for $500. Lego went up in price. That just happened. Like, that's a fact. It went from $400 to $500 for essentially the same model. The thing with Lego when you're trying to compare prices, though, is a lot of the times you don't have something that's like apples and apples. It's mostly apples to oranges or apples with half an apple and half an orange. So seeing sets that are so similar is somewhat rare to be able to compare one to another like that. Another really good example of the cost of Lego changing, despite Brickset posting an article trying to tell you it hasn't, CMFs went from $2 to $5 over the course of their release in 2010 to 2022. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I don't think CMFs are better now than they were in 2010, because I certainly think they are. However, they've gone up in price a lot. Another example I have in hand is the Snowspeeder, $20 in 2004, $40 in 2019. The price went up. Like, I know there's slightly different builds, but come on, right? Like, it's the same thing, but $20 more. And another really easy example, an apples to apples type example that you can look at is Lego Star Wars Battle Packs. Back in 2007, they came out, they were $10, 4 figures in a build or two, and it was $10. And now here we are 15 years later in 2022, and Battle Packs are now $20 even. That's doubling in price over the course of 15 years. The prices went up. It just happened, man. I don't know, like, what are we denying? So some of the comments on this turned out to be complete gold as well. Very top comment says, was this written by the Lego marketing department? Smiling Cyclops says, I think this would benefit from a graph or 3, and that is 1,000% where I was. When I came into this article, I was kind of really excited about a good analysis. Didn't get that. Someone made an account literally just to say, yes, Lego is more expensive. Very groundbreaking commentary indeed. And the guy who owns Bricklink tried to defend posting this by saying that it's someone else's that they posted to stimulate discussion. And boy, did I discuss it, didn't I? I mean, if I let someone else post a video on my channel and they were talking really bad about Lego, and I was like, but I didn't say it, like, I just don't, I completely disagree with using that as a defense for like, oh, but it's not my opinion. I only posted it on my website to stimulate discussion, not because I agree. The price of Lego has undeniably gone up. I think there are so many great examples like the battle packs where you can see literally doubling of price for what is essentially the same product. Like, it's just, there's no way around it. I don't know why Brickset would post an article defending Lego like this other than to get more in the good graces of Lego, which I can understand wanting. I guess you really want to get those 2023 sets early, but like part of it, okay, the 2023 thing is a joke, but you get the point. Like, this is an insane article. Like Lego is more expensive. It just is. Like, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I only posted this video to, wait, hold on, I gotta get the exact quote. Stimulate a discussion. So discuss below, leave a like if you guys enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.